was supposed to be just another Tuesday. Cold coffee, rusted pipes, a leak in the judge's chambers that wouldn't quit. But for Marcus Ellison, that morning started with more than dripping ceilings and busted valves. It started with a choice. One he'd never forget. He wasn't wearing a badge, just a maintenance uniform, stained navy blue. Dust on the collar, steel-toed boots with dry cement in the soles. He looked like background noise, like every other man the world walks past. But Marcus noticed things, always had. 18 years working under the bones of Jefferson District Federal Courthouse, and he could tell you which lights buzzed before they blew, which pipes leaked when it rained, and which judges left the restroom faucets on. So when he saw two men, strangers, lurking near the secured lot behind the courthouse, when one knelt and slipped something under a black Impala's trunk while glancing over his shoulder, when they disappeared down a side alley like ghosts in broad daylight, something in his chest locked. He could have turned away, could have said it's not my business, could have shrugged it off like people do every day, but he didn't. He tossed his wrench in the truck, snatched his badge off the dash, and drove to the nearest police station, 4th Avenue Precinct, downtown Ridgewater. He didn't go there for trouble, didn't go to get thanked. He just wanted someone, anyone, to check it out. Instead, they put cuffs on him. "Sir, you can't just walk back there," came the voice, clipped cold from behind a scratched reception desk. Marcus had barely stepped 2 feet inside. The floor smelled like lemon disinfectant. Plastic chairs lined the wall like forgotten witnesses. And standing near the entrance, gripping a tool bag in one hand and his ID in the other, Marcus cleared his throat. "I work maintenance at Jefferson Courthouse. Saw something suspicious near the restricted lot. Figured I should report it." The desk officer looked up, buzz-cut, square jaw, eyes like he was born angry. "You a janitor or something?" "I maintain the systems. Been there nearly 2 decades. The man didn't answer, just stared. And then from the left, another one stepped in. Detective Ryan Coulter. Tall, cocky, with a spit-shine badge and breath that reeked of stale coffee and superiority. "What's in the bag?" Marcus glanced down. "My tools." Without a word, Coulter reached over and snatched the bag. Didn't ask, didn't explain, just took. Marcus stayed calm. He always stayed calm. "I'm just reporting what I saw. 2 men. One left something under a vehicle in a secure area, looked off. Another officer emerged, Blake Minter, young, buzzed on ego and power, wearing sunglasses indoors like he thought he was in a movie. You match a description," Minter said with a shrug. "What description?" "Dark clothes, tool bag, seen walking near a federal building." Marcus blinked, slowly. "You think I planted something?" "I think you're wasting our time," Minter said. "Or maybe setting something up." Marcus reached into his jacket and pulled out his ID, held it in plain sight. "I work there. Ask for Lori Simmons. She supervises our department. Call her." But they didn't call, didn't verify, didn't even glance at the badge long enough to read his name. Coulter slapped it on the desk. "You're trespassing. Obstructing official business." Marcus stepped back. "I came in voluntarily. You're arresting me for what?" "For acting suspicious," Minter muttered. And that was all it took. The cuffs clicked behind his back like cold punctuation marks on a sentence he didn't write. And as they marched him past the bored receptionist, past the faded posters about community policing and neighborhood partnerships, Marcus felt it. That moment when truth no longer matters. That moment when your identity is reduced to a pair of calloused hands and skin they never trusted. He tried to remember the names of the men he saw, tried to replay the scene in his head, but it didn't matter, because now he was the suspect. Now he was in a holding cell. Now his truth had been twisted into silence. The cell smelled like bleach and damp guilt. One flickering light, a metal bench too cold to rest on. No clock, no time. He sat, elbows on knees, hands still aching from the cuffs they'd removed. He thought about his job. the pipe he hadn't finished replacing, the sandwich in his truck he never got to eat, and then a voice. "Yo, what they say you did." Marcus looked across the cell. A kid, maybe 20, stringy beard, nervous hands, hoodie with a rip across the shoulder, said I was loitering. Marcus replied, "Obstructing." The kid laughed, bitter and tired. "They always say that when they don't have a real charge." "Name's Marcus," he added after a pause. The kid nodded. "Dante, you don't belong here." "No," Marcus said, "I don't." They sat in silence a while. The kind that makes you question if the world is broken or just designed this way. Then came the voice, from outside the bars. "Ellison, got someone to call?" Marcus stood. "Call Laurie Simmons, Jefferson District Courthouse, maintenance, department." Officer Minter didn't write it down. "That's not how it works. Give me a number, or sit tight till someone gives a damn." Marcus stared at him, silent, unmoving. Minter tapped the bars. "Suit yourself," and walked off. Marcus sat again. The lights buzzed above like gnats circling a wound. But then he heard it. A voice. Older, measured, not barked or smug, just real. "You say he works at the courthouse?" Minter. "Yeah, but it doesn't matter. He came in rambling." Pause. "You check his ID?" Nothing. Then, "Did you even read the damn badge?" Another pause. Footsteps faded. But something had shifted. It was small, but Marcus felt it. Hope, no louder than a whisper, returned. Just enough to breathe. They didn't erase you, they never could. The silence that followed that voice, it wasn't just awkward, it was threatening, the kind of silence that falls before a thunderclap. Marcus leaned back against the cold cinderblock wall. He didn't know who the older voice belonged to, but whoever it was, it rattled something, because after that, the precinct changed, footsteps grew sharper, conversations dropped to whispers. Someone finally looked at the ID Coulter had tossed aside like junk mail, and that someone was Sergeant Elaine. Foster Gray, streak in her hair, stern as stone. A woman who had seen 2 decades of precinct politics and still held onto her moral compass like a weapon. She was thumbing through the intake files when she saw Marcus's. She read his full name, scanned the scanned ID, then narrowed her eyes. Federal, clearance, level 3 access, 18 years of employment with the U.S. courts. Sergeant Foster marched across the bullpen, paper in hand. "You put this man in a cell based on how he looked and the fact that he walked in with a tool bag." Coulter didn't look up. He was being cagey, refused to leave, was talking about bombs or something near a car. "He said he witnessed suspicious activity," Foster snapped. "Which, last I checked, is what we're supposed to want." Minter, still chewing gum, still smirking, shrugged. "Could have been a setup. What if he was baiting us?" Foster's eyes drilled into him. "Did either of you verify his employment? Did you run his ID?" No answer. Just a long, awful pause. Foster let the silence burn, then turned away and made a call. And that call, it lit. The first fuse. At the Jefferson District Courthouse, Laurie Simmons was already pacing. It had been over 2 hours since Marcus had gone to report what he saw. He never disappeared like this. Not without a call, not without telling her something. So when the front desk security told her he hadn't come back from checking something at the precinct, her stomach dropped. She called his cell. Voicemail. She called again. Same. That's when she called her contact in internal operations. And 5 minutes later, a line connected straight to the Department of Justice. Back inside the cell, Marcus sat alone. Dante had been released 20 minutes earlier, told his charges had been dropped. No one said why. No one apologized. Now it was just Marcus. The walls, the humming light, and then everything changed. A car screeched outside, not just any car. 2 black SUVs, matte finish, no markings, no lights. The kind of government-issued muscle that only showed up when something had gone terribly wrong. or terribly right. 4 agents in sharp suits stepped out. No hesitation, no clipboards, just presence. They entered through the front doors like they owned the place, and in that moment, they did. Sergeant Foster met them near the front desk. "Who are you with?" One woman, tall, sharp-eyed, no nonsense, flashed. Her badge, Agent Isla Rourke, Justice Department, Internal Division. "We're here on a federal order," she said. "Where's Marcus Ellison?" Foster pointed down the corridor. 2 agents broke off without waiting for permission. The others handed Foster an envelope, sealed, embossed. Warrant for immediate access to case logs, booking files, arrest records, and internal surveillance. And footage. Rourke didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. Her words echoed like thunder. Coulter, now visibly sweating, stood up from his desk. "What the hell is this?" Rourke turned slowly. "You're Detective Coulter?" He gave a hesitant nod. "Then you're coming with us." Before he could object, one of the agents gently but firmly took his arm. "You don't have to say anything right now, but anything you do say will be on record." Minter stood from the break room doorway, mouth half open. Another agent stepped past him, ignoring his attempts to speak. "You can wait here. We'll be back for you." Back in the cell, Marcus stood when the door opened. Not Coulter. Not Minter. A man in a black suit and maroon tie. "Mr. Ellison," he said. "I'm Agent Caleb Rhodes with the DOJ. You're being released." Marcus didn't move at first. "What changed?" The agent gave him a small, knowing look. "You were right." He handed Marcus his ID, his badge, his belt. "Your cooperation helped us open a case we've been chasing for 6 months. You're not in trouble. You're a witness, a damn important one." They stepped into the hallway. The entire precinct had gone still. Marcus saw Coulter in cuffs being walked out the front. Minter was still free, but his badge was on the desk. His sunglasses were gone, and the color had drained from his face. No swagger, no smirk, just silence. People stared as Marcus walked out, the same man they mocked, now surrounded by federal agents. Truth doesn't whisper forever. Sometimes it arrives in black SUVs. Outside, the air was crisp. Rodney Keene, Marcus's supervisor, was waiting beside the courthouse van, his face pale, his eyes wide. "Marcus," he breathed. "They told me, are you okay?" Marcus gave a small nod. "They didn't even check my ID." Rodney looked past him, saw Coulter being loaded into the SUV. "Good. Let them explain it now." The original black Impala, the one Marcus had reported, was now wrapped in crime scene tape. DOJ agents were photographing it, dusting for prints, lifting the trunk. Rodney exhaled. "You were right, man. You saw it. You tried to help." Marcus clenched, his jaw, and they locked me up for it. An agent approached. "Mr. Ellison, we'll need a full statement, either at the regional office or wherever you're most comfortable." Marcus looked back at the building that tried to bury him. "I'll give you everything I saw," he said, "but not in there. I'm done being quiet." The agent nodded, and in that moment something settled in Marcus's bones. He wasn't invisible anymore. He was evidence. He was change. Marcus didn't go home that night. Not yet. He sat in a conference room at the DOJ's regional office, an unmarked building on the edge of downtown, 2 floors high, windows tinted dark. Not a place for justice to be seen, but where it was built. Across from him sat Agent Isla Rourke, pen in hand, recorder on. She didn't rush him, didn't interrupt, she just listened. "I walked in to report what I saw near the courthouse. The Impala, 2 men loitering, one placing something under the trunk, and before I could finish explaining, Coulter was already pulling out cuffs." Rourke nodded slowly. "You told them who you were?" "Twice. Told them I worked maintenance at the courthouse, gave them my supervisor's name, gave them my ID. She scribbled a few more notes. They never verified it, never called, just threw me in a cell." "And Minter?" "He mocked me. Said I matched a suspect description because I was wearing dark clothes and carrying tools. Like that made me dangerous. There was a pause. The room felt heavy. Rourke leaned back in her chair. "Marcus," she said, her voice calm but sharp. "And you should know something. Your name wasn't the only one we've seen in past complaints." He raised his eyebrows. Rourke continued, flipping a folder toward him. "Coulter and Minter together have been named in 11 internal grievances in the past 4 years, all dismissed, most of them targeting Black and Latino men. Traffic stops, illegal searches, evidence that vanished." Marcus blinked. "I was just trying to do the right thing." Rourke nodded. "And you did. But you also kicked in a door we've been trying to open for months." She stood, turned off the recorder. "That's all I need for now. But I want to be clear. This case isn't going to stay quiet. You've become the face of a much bigger storm." Marcus didn't say anything. He didn't want to be a face. He just wanted the system to look in the mirror. By morning, the headlines were impossible to ignore. Federal worker wrongly arrested while reporting crime, FBI raid targets. Raleigh police precinct after wrongful detention, just a janitor. But he was the only one telling the truth. Every news outlet had something. Clips of Coulter being escorted in cuffs, Minter being grilled by agents, footage of Marcus walking calmly from the precinct, surrounded by silence. At the courthouse, whispers followed him, not cruel ones, curious, awed, ashamed. "Is that him? He's the one they locked up. Didn't even check his ID. Can you believe that?" But Marcus didn't flinch. He clocked in, walked through the lobby, head high, and the ones who used to look past him suddenly saw him. The next day, a letter arrived at his apartment from the mayor's office, an invitation to speak at the public oversight hearing scheduled for the following week. Community members, DOJ representatives, local leaders, victims of misconduct. At first, he left the letter on the kitchen table, didn't even open it. He didn't want a podium, didn't want to relive what happened in front of microphones. But later that night, after dinner, after the quiet settled, he read it again and remembered Darnell, remembered the other men who'd been locked in cages for less, who never had a federal agent show up in time, so he said yes. At the hearing, the room was packed. The air felt like it could break. TV crews, students, past victims, angry parents, hopeful elders. When Marcus stood at the mic, he didn't clear his throat. Didn't read from a page, he just began. "I didn't ask for this moment. I walked into that station thinking I was doing the right thing. I walked out realizing the truth. Sometimes doing the right thing makes you a target." He paused. 2. Officers didn't see a citizen trying to help. They saw a black man in work boots and made their decision before I spoke a word. The room was silent. They didn't check my ID. They didn't call my boss. They didn't ask any real questions. They just grabbed my arms and locked me up. He looked around. I've fixed broken pipes and flood damage for years, quiet work, behind the scenes. But this was something I couldn't fix with a wrench. He gripped the podium. I've learned something since then. Power doesn't listen unless it's forced to. And sometimes that force doesn't look like protest or policy. Sometimes it looks like a man with a quiet voice who refuses to stay silent. 1 clap, then 2, then the whole room. Not roaring applause, but solidarity. The days that followed were fast DOJ indictments, internal investigations, Coulter charged with evidence tampering, racially motivated misconduct, and false imprisonment. Minter resigned before they could fire him, but the impact spread wider. 6 other precincts opened internal reviews, 3 old cases reopened, 2 supervisors placed on leave. And Marcus, he got a call from the mayor personally. "Mr. Ellison, we'd like to appoint you to the newly formed Citizen Oversight Board. Your voice matters here." He said yes again. On a rainy Friday afternoon, Marcus found himself back in the same parking lot where it all began. The Impala was long gone. the tape removed. But the moment still haunted the concrete. Rodney joined him, umbrella in one hand, coffee in the other. "Place looks different now," Rodney said. Marcus gave a dry chuckle. "I think I do too." They stood there for a while, silent. Then Rodney asked, "You regret going in there that day?" Marcus didn't answer at first. Then, "No, I regret that I had to." He looked out across the lot, "But I'm glad I did." A month later, Marcus stood in a high school auditorium, guest speaker for a justice and civics class. He didn't plan a speech this time either, just told the students what happened and what it cost and what it changed. One kid raised a hand. "Were you scared?" Marcus didn't lie. "Yes." "Would you do it again?" He smiled, soft, tired. "Yes." Because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is refuse to be invisible. And when they try to shut the door, kick it open.